Some places on the map just feel different. They're like pockets of the world that operate by their own hidden rules, completely disconnected from the reality you and I know. Today, we're going to journey into one of those places, a town that's shrouded in mist, surrounded by ancient forests, and wrapped in a silence that feels heavier than sound itself. It's like a ghost on the digital map of the world. This is the story of a town in Oregon, and an experiment that, well, it might still be running. Just imagine this for a second. A town, totally lost in the dense, fog-choked forests of Oregon. A place where pulling out your phone doesn't just get you a dirty look, it marks you, it paints you as a threat. Where the simple act of taking a picture feels like you're committing a crime, like you're attacking the entire community. And this isn't some story from 100 years ago. This is happening right now. In this place, there are no glowing screens to light up the dark. No endless, mindless scrolling through perfect lives happening somewhere else. That familiar chime of a notification, the buzz of a text, they just don't exist here. They've been replaced by this heavy, unnerving quiet. People here don't connect online. They watch, they observe, and they wait. Because in a town that has erased itself from the digital world, a town with no online footprint, a town that values its silence more than anything else, those outsiders who ask too many questions, the ones who just can't let it go, well, sometimes they just vanish. Their digital trail goes cold right at the edge of town. And that is where our investigation begins. So let's set the scene. Why Oregon? Why here? Because if a town could really truly disappear from the modern world, this is where it would happen. We're not talking about a suburb with a bad signal. We're talking about huge, isolated landscapes, deep forests that seem to just swallow sound, where ancient trees create a canopy so thick it feels like twilight, even in the middle of the day. The only way in or out is often these winding mountain roads that can be easily cut off. This land is filled with these small, fiercely independent communities. It's the perfect incubator for secrets. It's an environment where a town could just decide to unplug, create its own strange rules, and stay hidden for decades. But here's what's so unnerving about it. When you arrive, there isn't some big sign that says no technology. No, it's way more subtly than that. And honestly, that's what makes it so disturbing. The rules aren't written down anywhere. They're just in the air. You breathe them in. They're enforced by silent stares, by conversations that just die the second you walk into a room, by this feeling of being constantly watched from behind curtained windows. It's a code you're just supposed to know, and the penalty for breaking it? Dangerously unclear. The few visitors who've actually passed through and come back, they all describe this chillingly consistent pattern. Smartphones are treated like contraband. You hide them. The second a camera comes out, that friendly, small-town veneer just evaporates. People literally turn their backs on you. You feel the weight of all these unseen eyes, this collective pressure telling you to put the device away. Even the buildings seem frozen in time, deliberately old-fashioned, as if the whole town just decided to hit pause on history. You get this overwhelming feeling that this isn't just a quaint lifestyle choice. No, this town is desperately, desperately protecting something. The question is, what? And that brings us to the first huge question. In a place with no written laws, who or what is the enforcer? Is it the community itself, a kind of collective paranoia that has become self-policing? Or is there something else at play? A hidden authority, an unseen hand, maybe a town council or a charismatic leader, making sure nobody steps out of line. Because figuring that out, that's the key to unlocking this whole mystery. The nature of the enforcer reveals the true reason for the silence. This leads us right into the most prominent theory, the one that online investigators have been obsessed with for years. And it's a chilling thought. The idea that this isn't really a town at all. It's a laboratory, a meticulously controlled environment designed to answer one of the biggest questions of our time. What happens to human beings when you strip away all of our technology? Are we better off, or do we become something else? The key to this theory is one word: intent. The town's isolation isn't an accident, it's by design. Someone, a big corporation, a research institute, maybe even a government agency, is carefully studying the residents. They've basically created a human petri dish to see how we act in our natural, pre-digital state. Every single interaction, every argument, every friendship, it's all just data. The people living there aren't just citizens, they're data points in the most ambitious social study ever imagined. And you can see the kinds of questions they'd be asking. Are people actually happier without social media? Does anxiety go down? How do our relationships change when we're not constantly distracted by a screen? These are fascinating questions. But look at the other side of this. For every one of those questions, there's a much darker one. Who's running this thing? Who are the scientists watching from the shadows? And here's the biggest one. Are the people in this town willing participants who signed up for this? Or are they just lab rats in a cage they can't even see? But then something doesn't quite add up. A scientific study, even a secret one, shouldn't feel this menacing. The constant feeling of being watched, the open hostility to anyone new, the whispers about people who just disappeared, it suggests something more than just impartial observation. This feels less like a lab and more like a prison. Which leads us to a much, much darker possibility. So let's explore a second theory. What if the tech ban isn't about studying behavior at all, but about preventing discovery? What if the goal isn't to learn something new, but to bury something old? What if this place isn't a laboratory, but a fortress? A place designed not to observe something, but to hide something so terrible it requires an entire town to stand guard. The logic here is brutally simple, and honestly, pretty effective. Think about it. In our world, the single biggest threat to any secret is that little device in your pocket. It takes photos, it records video, it tags your exact GPS location, it creates a record of the truth that's undeniable and can be shared with the entire world in seconds. So if you want to keep a secret buried forever, you don't just tell people to be quiet. You eliminate the tool of exposure itself. You make the camera a weapon and the smartphone a crime. So what kind of secret would be so big that it needs an entire town to protect it? Well, the possibilities are pretty chilling. You could have a massive illegal operation hidden deep in those woods, or a secretive cult isolating its followers from the outside world. Maybe a corporation committing environmental crimes, dumping toxic waste where no one can film the proof. Or maybe the most plausible of all, a government black site, an unacknowledged facility doing things that could never, ever see the light of day. Really, it could be anything that wouldn't survive the glare of a single viral video. In this version of the story, technology isn't the enemy, the truth is. But even then, one piece of the puzzle just didn't seem to fit. Hiding a secret explains banning cameras. Sure, but it doesn't explain the total, hermetically sealed isolation from the rest of the world. It doesn't explain the look of fear in some of the residents' eyes. And that's when a third, and maybe the most disturbing theory of all, begins to take shape. What if the secret isn't a thing, but a system? A system of total control. The ban isn't about keeping us from looking in, it's about keeping them from looking out. When you control technology, you control reality itself. It's a blueprint for absolute power. You control the information, so people only know the version of the world you allow them to see. You control communication, so you cut them off from any outside help or perspective, making them feel completely alone. You control exposure, so any injustice, any cruelty, happens in the dark, unrecorded, unprovable. And most terrifying of all, you control escape. With no way to call for help, pull up a map, or message others, the population is totally powerless, trapped inside an invisible cage. So regardless of which theory is true, experiment, secret, or control, we have to step back and ask, what does this actually do to the human mind? I mean, living in a manufactured reality, in this bubble of enforced silence, day after day, year after year, it has to have a profound psychological impact. It must create this bizarre, unsettling mix of peace and terror, a tranquility that comes at an almost unbearable price. On the one hand, you can almost see the appeal, can't you? A world without that constant, low-level buzz of anxiety from social media. A place where people have real, uninterrupted conversations, actually looking each other in the eye. But then you look at the flip side, and it's a quiet nightmare. Extreme isolation from family, from world events, from progress. No way to call an ambulance in an emergency. Very limited access to education or opportunity. And maybe the most sinister effect of all, a deep-seated fear of the outside world is cultivated, making you a prisoner in your own peaceful little paradise. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? It's a devil's bargain. The town offers you this manufactured peace, a quiet life free from the chaos of the modern world. But the price you pay for that peace is your genuine freedom. Freedom of thought, freedom of movement, the freedom to connect with the rest of humanity. From the outside, it seems like an impossible trade to make. But from the inside, after years of conditioning, it might feel like the only choice you have. So where does all this leave us? We have a town cut off from everything. We have theories of science, of secrets, of absolute control. We've talked about the psychological cost of this quiet life. But as we pull all these threads together, we arrive at the final, most unsettling revelation of this whole story. One that turns the focus away from this strange town in the Oregon woods and points it directly back at us. Because think about it, after everything we've uncovered, the chilling control, the deep isolation, the potential for who knows what horrors, the truly frightening part isn't that a town like this could exist. It's not that a group of people could be forced or tricked into living this way. No, the scariest part is that, for some of us listening, this doesn't sound entirely like a prison. It sounds, maybe just for a second, like an escape. In our world of constant noise and digital overload, the idea of a simple, quiet, unplugged life is powerful. It's seductive. And this mystery reveals a disturbing truth about our own secret desires for silence. And that is the ultimate danger, isn't it? That we might willingly trade our awareness for comfort. We might beg for someone to turn down the noise, not realizing that in the silence, the chains are being locked. Because once you hand over control of the information you see, once you unplug from the messy, complicated outside world, you can be controlled so easily you might not even notice you've lost your freedom. Because the peace feels so good. Which leaves us with one final haunting question. Is this town in Oregon a sanctuary, an extreme way to protect its people from the dangers of the digital world? Or is it a cage, designed to protect a dark secret from the technology that we hold in our hands every single day? Is this peace? Or is it control? The answer is out there, somewhere in those misty forests, waiting.